Good evening. This is Catherine, Trails Committee Chair, calling the Trails Committee meeting on October 9th to order at 7:37. Let's do a roll call. When I call your name, let me know that you're here. Will Warren,
Here.
Satyendra Sharma,
Here.
Kat McKee, here. Tom McCoolier could not join us. He has a work meeting, so we'll just proceed and give him an update with the minutes. So the first order of business is to review the minutes. I circulated them earlier, and would you like me to pull them up, or have you had an opportunity to review them?
They look fine.
Sati, would you like me to, well, you drafted them. So.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, great. So these minutes are from, I'm sorry, my cat is sitting on the agenda, so I need to see. Squeezy kitty. Oh, I know, it's so bad. Okay, so we're gonna call. I make a motion that we approve the 8-1 minutes that were circulated today. Can I have a second?
Second.
Great.
Will Warren.
All in favor, let me know that you've voted when I call your name. Will Warren.
Aye.
Satyendra Sharma.
Yes.
Kat McKee, yes. So the motion passes. Thank you all. Okay, so we have lots of updates on projects, and so and some decisions and updates from the select board that we need to discuss. So first, talking about the Peninsula Trail Phase 1. So this is where the DCR grant, you want to start the timer, Sati. So this is our minutes count towards volunteer hours. So where we are here, we have signage and paving left to do, paving of the ADA parking spots that were installed by DPW. I will start with the signs. So I've spoken to our sign vendor, which is Fossil Industries, and they have submitted a new quote, an updated quote, to ensure we have the most recent pricing. I'm going to share my screen so you can see this. Okay. And let me know when you can.
Awesome. Okay. Yep.
Got
See
it.
it.
Great. Okay, so this is an updated quote, and so these were for it was for a trailhead kiosk. Let me just double check if it's listed as that. Yeah, trailhead, 2 trailhead kiosks, and then let's see how many signs we have here, because it's broken down in components. So I want to say we got 2 graphic panels, 2 double cantilevers. That's 1. That's 2 single posts. So 2 double pedestals, 2 single posts, and 2 single posts. So 6 signs, right? 6 signs here. And then we also have, she updated it to include an estimate for the design. I got into some detail with her about the representative, about what they need, how they want to receive the information. So if we can keep costs at a minimum by just sharing, obviously, a tentative kind of, in Word is fine, a draft of what we think the signs will look like, the plate, this is what our text is going to be, and these are our pictures. And so the graphic designer, she estimated, I want to say it's a few hours per sign. So if we have 6 signs, so she estimated 4 design hours per sign, and she added the design work in here. So the quote now includes that as a more final quote. And so that number may fluctuate depending on how how much it takes. And I think what we'll probably do is, with the interpretive signs, what we may do is have like a similar format so that each of them are kind of formatted the same. It will cut down on some design cost, and you're just interchanging pictures and text. And we discussed at our last meeting what we kind of want to see generally on each of those signs. So what we need to do is, first, I would like to pull up my, does anyone have any initial questions here on this quote? The total quote is $13,900, and that's with shipping, but I will caveat that by saying what we need to do. So there, let me just pull up my notes, so I'm just talking at the same time. Give me just a second. think. Mhm. Hmm. Okay, it's not coming up quickly. I'll just have to try to remember. Was basically, I don't really want to try to remember. Oh, there it is. Great. Okay, so we're looking at a production schedule of about 6 weeks.
It is 1390 or
Yeah, so the number is 13,900, so $13,904. We have a production schedule about 6 weeks, and I told her we could get her we would get her preliminary draft by October 22nd. So what we'll do is, we've already talked generally about what we're looking to do. I will send the committee a draft and have you guys send me individual, feedback on that, and then we will send that off to her. So our goal is to get it off by the 10/22 date, which is Tuesday, or maybe Monday, the 21st rather. So that's the 21st on team. So the thing about the shipping is, so it's going to be a pretty big package. So we're going to need somewhere for it to be delivered. So we need, and she indicated that if we don't have a place that has a, what's it called? A tractor that lifts, a forklift. If we don't have a forklift to unload the truck, then for an additional $13.63, they can send the shipment via a lift gate truck, right? So I'm going to reach out to DPW and see if they might have a space that we could temporarily store the signs until we get it. And if they have, if they have a forklift, if we could leverage their services to help us with this, or if we need to come up with another solution, we'll know that pretty soon. Now that I'm thinking about it, we'll also have a transportation issue, not an issue, but a challenge to solve of getting it from point A to point B, being the place that it's going to be delivered for installation. So we'll have to work that out. I have not worked that problem out yet, but that's just something that we'll have to figure out. So we have a tight timeline for this, and we'll just do our best in moving forward, and then arrange for install after the signs are delivered. We'll arrange it in advance, but we did have a sign installer give us a quote a while back when we were doing the original planning for this. So we'll reach back out to the sign installer, see if that's still an interest in availability for him, and we'll arrange what we need to do accordingly for that. Any questions?
So the DPW has a backhoe or something, right?
Yeah, I have to ask them if they would be interested in helping us, like if they had a place to temporarily store the signs, and if they had something we could, use to get the, a forklift to remove the pallets of signs, and then to temporarily store them until we install, which would be close in proximity to the delivery. The hardware comes differently from the signage, so the display panels will be shipped different but within a few days of each other.
How big you think the pallets would be? What I was thinking was that, can we not store it in our shed?
Yeah, that's a really great proposal. We would not, and they actually have some equipment right there. I don't know if they have a forklift, but they might be able to, if they were able to help us, we might be able to do that. I think it just depends, you're right, on how big it is. Because
Well, also, will it
display
fit through the
signs,
door?
yeah, well, the doors open double, right? So that's
Right.
good. That is a great question. And I want to understand the load, how much weight it is, because I don't know how much the shed would take.
It should not
Right,
collapse.
I don't want to break through the floor. I mean, but it's only 6 panels. These are not huge signs, right? And that's a really good question. I don't know why we would need a forklift now that I'm thinking about it. Like
What does the pallet contain?
the 6 display panels.
Yeah, I don't think
The
you need a
signs.
forklift.
Yeah,
Mm.
right. So we'll drill down on that and really get some specifics and see what that looks like.
And
Because
I
it
mean, it
might
would
be
depend
simpler.
on if they have a base. Do they have a base? Or-
Yeah, the hardware is going to be shipped separate though, so that will be a different pallet.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll figure that out. But those are some of the details that we'll be working out in the near term. So they will be, so what we need to do is we'll get a PO to secure the funding, and they will not require a deposit because they've worked with municipalities before, so they understand the process. So that's the signage, and that's our a tentative plan. Any questions on that? So I'll be sending you some stuff over the next week. I'm gonna have some time on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, to draft some things. And then I'll ship those off to you guys for review and a singular feedback to just me.
And we're going to get to see the proposed artwork.
Oh, of course, yeah, so we need to, so I asked about image quality and what they're looking for to ensure the, so they're looking for at least 240 DPI. That's the minimum. And some of our, photos may be the historic photos that we're getting off of the Mass website, the digital archives, right? So it just depends on the quality of those. What they'll do is ship to us a 8x10 poster on the material that is going to be printed on, and they're going to take the images and size them. They'll be sized at the, they'll take a snippet of the image and make a collage of all the images. So what you're going to see is the quality of a corner of the image at the size it will be printed at. So you'll be able to see what it looks like when it's printed. So we'll, that will give us a good understanding if we have the right image quality or not. We might have to get a little creative at times if we don't hit that out of the ballpark right away.
Is there any font standards for Southborough?
I
Any
don't
branding font standards?
No, but there are standards in general, so we would look for general guidelines. Remember the DCR conference we attended, Will, and the interpretive sign
Yeah.
session that we attended? There's probably some guidance there. So we'll look for some best practices and follow those.
Okay.
DCR, actually, the Parks and Rec side might actually have some standard best practices that we could follow, since this will be on DCR's property too. Someone has invented that wheel that we don't have to reinvent, and we'll leverage that.
Good.
Okay, any questions on this piece? Okay, so next on this topic of Mass Trails grants, so this is where we did a couple updates yesterday too. I attended the select board. They invited me to attend and provide some updates. I'm going to stop sharing at this moment. And so I met with them, and so our obligation for the trails grant is the matching that we have to do is total of 30,000. I'm just going to pull up my worksheet, so I'm talking through the stuff I need to talk through. Yeah. Okay, so the total match is 30,572. And you remember from our last conversations that, so our last, we submitted our first reimbursement for the fencing and such, and we had a match up to $10,508. And that was based on volunteer hours, DPW's install of the ADA parking spots, and some various permitting that were waived by the town. So that's how we came up with that number. And that reimbursement was accepted, and our match was acceptable. So everything we did was on the up and up. And so we now have a match we owe of $20,064. And so in order to, we had decided that what we were going to do is use the paving of the ADA spots to help with that match, right? And so since that point, we have received an estimate from Beal and Thomas. We reached out to Beal and Thomas, VHB, and PAR to get quotes, and we received 2 quotes. One was unresponsive. And so the Beals came in much lower at 6,600. So we have a contract from Beals to that's now getting reviewed and signed by Mark Purple for the engineering services for the paving. Bill Cundiff, the DPW superintendent, recommended that we do the engineering services before we do the paving to ensure things are going to be correctly done. And paving companies tend to need the engineering services, so it is money worthwhile being spent. So they're going to be doing that work ASAP, right? And so the request is to do the services as quickly as possible so that the paving can get done. Now, what came up in yesterday's meeting was the paving season is coming to an end, right? So whether we will be able to get this paved this year is a question mark, right? Now, Bill recommended, he had reached out and gave us a name of a paver, so we do need to go through a 3-quote process. Bill initially did a quote for us. We used that quote to help with the CPA application earlier this year, which was at the $21,000 mark. But his quote also included like 5 parking spots when we're only doing 2 and a small sidewalk. So that 20 may come down, but we do need it to at least, our match with our hours and such needs to make the $20,000 mark so that we're meeting our obligation. So the question on the table is, what if we can't get paving done this year? What if the season has closed, right? And our grant needs to be processed by the end of this year. So the backup plan, and what I'll also have to do in the next week, is I'm going to reach out to DCR, Mass Trails Grant Program, and find out if there's an option to extend. So for example, if we have everything in place, ready to go, we just can't do the paving until it warms up in the spring, what does that look like? Is that a possibility, and any ramifications or consequences of doing that? So I wanted to talk to the committee.
Can we prepay?
Prepay. Well, it's not so much about procuring, which is valid because that's what we can do with ARPA money. It's more about the project should be completed and wrapped up by the end of the year. Yeah.
Okay.
So so that's an option I'm going to explore, just so we know what we're working with.
When is their closing?
The what closing?
The closing for the season.
It depends. I think it depends on temperature and weather. So, I can't quote that exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's something that we're looking into. So that's Mass Trails Grant. Any questions on that piece?
No.
Okay. And so once we do those 2 things, we'll be, that will conclude our Mass Trails Grant and phase 1 of the project, which will be very exciting. So next up is phase 2, the engineering services. So I'll give a quick update.
Our clock stops here, right?
Yep, stops here. Time tracking. So phase 2 is an interesting, complicated little project. So I'm going to try to speak carefully, and if I confuse anyone, just back me up and we'll start over. So we're in the process of the engineering services are underway, right? For the boardwalk and the bridge. And basically what happened was we were supposed to be meeting with the conservation commissions. I want to say, let me just pull up my form so I don't misquote. Yeah, the filing deadlines we were going to meet were in August. And we were going to attend the September conservation commissions for Framingham and Southborough. And basically Beals came back and said, we're not going to make those deadlines because we want to go back out into the field, make sure we have the most accurate information to calculate the wetland impacts, to ensure that they calculate the impact of the installation of the bridge abutments and the piles for the boardwalk. So they did send their crew back out just to double check things. They wanted to make sure that the application for the notice of intent was fully complete, and had the most compelling and, information that the commission would feel comfortable that we wouldn't have to go back for multiple sessions. So they did meet the September filing deadlines, which meant the 2 meetings that would have taken place would have been on October 2nd was Framingham and October 3rd was Southborough. That was last Wednesday and Thursday. And you may recall we had a Tuesday meeting scheduled for Trails Committee, but we had to cancel that because of the extended town meeting. And unfortunately for Sam, who was here, the town closed the town hall at 2, and I think I sent my agenda just about 2 p.m. and that cancellation did not get posted. So if anyone tried to attend our meeting that's listening to this recording, we apologize for that. But it was out of our hands. So Framingham rescheduled their October 2nd meeting because of a religious holiday. So they rescheduled it for the 16th of October, next Wednesday. So that's when that is happening at 7 p.m. Eastern time.
This is their town meeting?
It's their Conservation Commission
Oh.
meeting. Yep. Also related to Framingham, which is new news, is the individual that not only had they had a complete turnover of their staff since the beginning of this project that happened 2 years ago, the individual, the conservation agent assistant, who's been our primary contact and very supportive of the project and aware of the project from multiple emails and exchanges, and also meeting him at the Metro West Trails Summit, Dominic Portelli, is no longer with Framingham. So they have a new conservation assistant who's getting up to speed on the project. So Framingham did ask Beals to go out and visit the site just to ask some specific questions. The site visit went well. They just wanted to understand some details. So that was a good visit. So we hope that on October 16th, that meeting will go well. These meetings with the Conservation Commission are required so we can get the work orders to be able to do the project. And the next step is the bid. So they also file with the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection at the same time, and a number is issued, a work order conditions number, a permit number is issued. And so it goes smoothly and fast process to assign the number in Framingham because they're part of the North region or Northeast region, but we're part of the Central region, and the Central region takes a long time because they're short-staffed to issue that number. So there may be a slight delay in the Southborough Commission getting the Mass DEP number. TBD on that. Let's get our fingers crossed that things will will progress as they need to. So that's the update on the engineering services. So they, Beals also said that, so they need to do the geotechnical borings. They need to go out there. They said that the contractor had gone out, said the site was fine. They would be able to access what they needed to. The geotechnical borings are when they drill down to understand what is the layers of soil and how it will load bear the elevated boardwalk and the footbridge. And so Beals said there was a small delay with the contractor, so I asked Beals to go ahead and put in place, consider this an emergency and get it done as soon as possible. We can't afford any more delays. So if you have to find another contractor, please do so. But we do need to move this forward and not have any more delays.
Are they
yeah.
are they going to take flooding into account?
Yeah, they do take flooding into account. Yeah.
Okay.
And Stony Brook, remember, is a controlled output from the dam. So MWA actually controls its flow. And when we met with MWA, months ago, they said, when you're doing the work, we can lower the water levels so that you can easily install things and work around. And Dave from Beals said that when he went out there with Framingham, that they could almost walk across, the water was so low. They could almost walk across the stream at that time. But yeah, the flooding is taken into consideration. So we met with Southborough, and that went very well. They had some good questions. Their questions had to do with, because we were going to have to take some small trees down, the suggestion of plantings, that we would do some plantings to ensure to kind of offset our disturbance came up, and then they asked about the specific seed. So we're going to want to make sure whatever we do is native focused and good for the environment that's there. So next up is Framingham. That's next week. And I was able to attend. They're both Zoom meetings. You're welcome to attend the meetings. I am going to be away next week, but I can attend remotely. So I will be there, and we'll see how that goes. So once that is in place, then, Beal should be working on the bid documents. The original schedule for bids to be to go out was in late September, and now we're in October, so it's either going to be end of October or early November. I will confirm these with Beals. They can be working on the bid documents in parallel to the NOI. They don't need to do it in sequence, right? So these things can happen. And so then when we go to bid, and just to divide our concept of what's funding this, the engineering services are being funded by ARPA. The bid and the project manager for the in the bid and the construction of the bridge and the purchase of the bridge, that's all done through the CPA money. So it does not have to be, the money does not have to be spent by the end of this year or secured. So we're fine in that way for the bid. So we're running up against the clock, and we have some excess funding. And that's one of the reasons I attended yesterday's meeting. They wanted an update on the funding. And it looks like we will be reallocating some of our money back to the select board that we won't be using. And we also have a time-sensitive opportunity that I'm about to speak to you about in the crosswalk. So we need to talk about what I had proposed to the select board, so you're aware. And if you have any questions or want to, take a different approach, then we can talk about that as well. So I'm going to share screens again. Let me know when you can see.
This is the crosswalk across Route 30.
Yes, this is Route 30.
And this is a crosswalk in front of Sinope, whatever.
Yep,
Snoopy.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we initially had 15,000 secured for that. And that was based off of a quote we received years ago from VHB. So now we're drilling into what is it going to cost. So I reached out to Beals and asked them if they would provide us a quote for services to put the engineering plans in place for the traffic, for the crosswalk. And so they need to use a subcontractor, basically a traffic engineer. Vanessa and Associates is who they had worked with. And so Beals is proposing a $5,000 engineering services for their part of it. And then Vanessa and Associates is roughly 15. So that's about 20,000 with a contingency I put of 10%, so 22,000. So what we can't do, so I spoke with and I met with Mass DOT, right? So we want to put a crosswalk in. We need to know if Mass DOT will allow us to put one in. What is the process? What does the permitting look like and such? Actually, I'm going to stop sharing so we don't focus on the spreadsheet so much right now, and we listen to what we're doing. So the question is, I met with Mass DOT, and they were very responsive, and I actually connected with Peter Sutton, who we met through the Metro West Trail Summit. So it was a really good connection. He put us in touch with individuals that were responsible. And the short story is it can take up to 3 to 4 months to do the permitting to go through the permit and application process for Mass DOT to approve the permit if they choose to do so based on a number of factors. So what that means is we would not technically meet that deadline and be able to install a crosswalk by the end of this year, right? And so the question I put in front of the select board is, would you consider the funding? Would you consider allowing the funding that we have to be spent on the engineering services, get all of the traffic design, the concept plan, the prep for the application in place. And then, you know, we'll have all of that ready. And in another world, another year, we do the install the crosswalk, right? Because there's going to be a bid process related to that and whatnot. And so they were open to that. If we can secure a contract before the next meeting, which is 10/22. And that was my suggestion, is like, can you give us until the 22nd to do the contracting, see if we can get that to pan out? And so they're open to that suggestion, which was very generous of them for timing. So what that means is so there are certain requirements when you're putting in a traffic light or a crosswalk, right? And it is based on, I'm going to speak a little out of my wheelhouse, but there's some preliminary information I've received from both Beals and Mass DOT that I can speak to. So basically when you have, it depends on the speed limit of the roadway, right? And we've confirmed the roadway is Mass DOT. And the roadway right now is posted at 40 miles an hour. So anything over 35 miles an hour, you have a certain recommendation for the type of crosswalk beacon you use. And it's recommended for a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. So it's one of those, you know, it flashes. You've all seen them when a car approaches or when a pedestrian approaches, right? So rough estimate to purchase one of those, the low end is 9,000, the high end is 12. So it's like between 12 and 20, sorry, it's 12 and 20 $1,000 to purchase the hardware, to get the electrical, to get it wired, and to do all of that, to get it installed, right? And that's rough estimate. So we won't be able to do that part, but we can seek funding to do that. So Mass DOT also said, you know, they prefer it to be a wired installation over solar, because the solar install requires more maintenance, and they have to replace batteries every couple years, and it's just not as cost effective as wiring it in. So that is one thing. So I was like, well, you know, how do you find where to, you know, there's usually a light or utility pole in the area that they would attach to. So those are all factors that have to be considered. So, and the other piece that's a gateway question is whether the site distance, right? So where we were initially thinking to put it, which is, I actually can probably pull this up. So we're talking, and it's easier to vision. Let's do this and do this. Yeah, perfect. Okay, now I'm going to share. Here we go. Let me know when you see the image.
Yes.
Okay, great. So just to orient us, this is Stony Brook Road. The trail comes out through here and is going to go over here, down through here into the woods, over the wetlands area, over here, the bridge, and then connect to Bay Circuit Trail there. So the parking, this is Sunapee. This is the parking that we had eyed, and they were considering either allowing us this parking over here or some version over here, right? And so ideally, let's just say it makes sense to be next to the parking spots, and so we would have a crosswalk in here somewhere. So you see this bend in the road. This creates a challenge for putting a crosswalk, because cars need a certain sight distance to see and for it to be safe. So they had indicated it should be over here, kind of, because that's going to give the longest sight distance, right? And in order for Mass DOT to even consider it, they want to know that this sight distance is going to be safe enough, right? So the considerations for installing the crosswalk means, one, you have to have curbing, ADA compliant curbing on both sides. You have to also have some sort of pathway oftentimes from the crosswalk to the parking area, right? So whether that's paved or stone dust or hard packed, it just depends.
That would be on the Sunapee side?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then you also have to have it on the opposite side, right? Then you have to provide a path to the trail. So you see this project has now just gone a little bit bigger than just installing a crosswalk. So we've got like an extension here, a little path, and then you have to have some sort of path that the people can use safely to get to the trail. So that, and it doesn't have to be paved. Again, it does have to be, you know, flat surface, stone dust, something like that. That's safe for walking. And so that's the total project and what it would require. So what I'm proposing is, if we can, you know, if the contractors, Beals and their subcontractor can provide a proposal and is interested in doing the work, then we can, that's the question before the committee. Do we want to go ahead and try to, you know, secure the services so that when we go to our next level of funding, whatever that may be, we would have everything already plans in place, and we would just need to, you know, go to bid, find a contractor, and get things executed in that way.
Okay. Could you just review again? I kind of zoned out, but exactly what kind of flashing or whatever, what kind of crosswalk kind of thing are we installing here?
Yeah, let me do this. Let me look it up so you can see.
I mean, it's not one where people can press a button and it will,
I think it is.
will it then flash a red light to stop traffic, or?
Yeah, I think it, well, no, it won't, we're not putting in red lights, right? So it's just going to be flashing, something like this. So these little guys are flashing, or the signs flash. There's different versions of the flash.
And the flash is going to be to slow or tell traffic to watch out that's approaching this thing.
Let's say that one more time.
The flashing is going to be for the people in cars too.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and how far away from the crosswalk will these flashing lights be? Will they be
Well,
right
probably
next to
similar
it?
to, can you, is there a way to, can you see the image that I
Yeah, I
have
see the image, yeah.
up? Yeah, so you see it's basically on the side of the road, and this is the ADA curbing that they're referring to, right? And so you
Okay.
have flashing here, flashing on both sides, with a big yellow sign that says,
But it's not, they're not set far enough away from the crosswalk itself to give some lead time for drivers, I guess.
they're appropriately set back, however the requirements are. So that's something that is done with
Okay.
the permitting and application, and DOT makes sure that all the, you know, all the requirements for setbacks are met.
Okay,
So that's something that it's a concern, a good question, but something that we don't need to actually know. That we know that the consultants will get it right and Mass DOT will be checking.
who picks up the electrical bill and the maintenance?
Thank you.
bill?
That's a great question. Yes, I asked those questions because
Ah.
this is a consideration too for Mass DOT, and why we would have to make a very compelling case why a crosswalk would go here. Because ultimately the utilities and all of the maintenance is paid by Mass DOT. So what we're essentially doing is asking Mass DOT to take on another cost, a project that's going to cost them. So it needs to be worthwhile for them to say yes. So that is why the narrative and the why is this important and how will it be used? And, you know, we'll have to tell the story that, you know, not only the Sunapee employees that will be using it on a daily basis, we would assume, but the trail users. And this section of roadway, Mass DOT people that we met with were very familiar with this section. They actually met back in, I think it was 2019 or 2018 in January, when we all got together, a bunch of departments, including DPW, to look at this site to see what kind of, you know, crossing we could do. It was a bridge at that point. Can we put a bridge off of the bridge? So that's how long this discussion has been going on. And so they were familiar with this section. So I think making the case that it's literally no space to walk is along the roadway is a good one. So I think, you know, but it is totally up to them whether they can take on this project, you know, take on the cost of it and whatnot.
This parking lot, is that, will that be available all the, even in the working days, or it is just during the weekend?
Yes, that's a really good question too, Sati. Thank you for segueing into the next piece. Now, before we spend any money or recommend spending any money, we need Sunapee to say, yes, I'm committed. Right. So I explained that to the to the select board, and we had talked about it during the last session too. I asked them what that would they need to feel comfortable, and the legal counsel had come back and said, you can do it in two ways. You can do a license, you can do an easement through the Conservation Commission, but that requires like town meeting, or you could do a license between Southborough and the company. And we would be looking for at least 10 years use, right of way, or however you describe it, a use option to use it for up to 10 years, some set number of parking spaces that they would be willing to provide us. And I do believe my request would be on a 7-day basis, because it would be hard to police. You can park here on Sundays and Saturdays, but not Monday through Friday, you know. And currently this parking lot it is not full. Like the way you see it in this image is how I've mostly seen it when I drive by, or any part of the day that I've gone there, which has been morning, evening, and midday. It's always been pretty sparse. Not that it won't change or could change, but they also have a parking deck right here and other parking elsewhere on their campus. So it feels like it's more of a kind of left field thing. So I've reached out to Sanofi and to our contact to request, you know, see what this is going to look like. Now there's short turnaround time, so there is a chance this may not fly, right? We may have to let it go and just take it up again next year when we finish building out the project and we go to this phase 3, we'll have to call it. So if things work out and Sanofi can say, yes, we can give you a verbal commitment that we'll be willing to work with you on an MOU. We will not be finalizing the MOU by the 22nd. That is not realistic. And obviously we have a large corporation, we have a town, and the way I described it with the select board, no offense intended, but we have a slug and a slug working together. So it's going to be like snail's pace. So we just need to, but they would be open if we could get a commitment from Sanofi that they would be interested in going into and trying to work out an MOU, that we would be able to do so. So if we can get a yes from them on that, and we can get a contractor to say yes, which we're close to doing, Beals is all on board, and I'm going to reach out to get a verbal confirm. Then we will be able to use the money for the engineering and traffic services, to traffic plan.
We're not doing anything with like a lease or anything, right?
No.
Okay, and will there be some type of agreement that even if Sanofi goes out of business and gets purchased by some evil enterprise, that you know, our 10 years will remain?
Yeah, there'll have to be some sort of like assignment if things were to do, you know, change hands. I'm sure that's going to be up to the fancy lawyers to kind of come up with that language. But yeah, it's something
Okay.
in consideration.
All right.
Yeah.
Transferable. It should be transferable to them.
And we could also, you know, this, like, once we get, if we can get a yes again, you know, they provided a letter of support, so they are interested. But if we could get them to, we can also ask them if, you know, if we're going to spend X amount of dollars, which it looks like it could be up to 22,000, you know, would they be open to helping us pay for the crosswalk? You know, as we're, you know, we're putting in a chunk, would you put in a chunk and help us pay for that? You know, something like that. But that's going to be a little bit down the road, but we can ask.
Okay.
So do you think it's worthwhile to pursue and see if we could, you know, at least if we can get a yes from Sanofi to have them to spend them, to ask the select board to allow us to allocate that money towards the engineering services and traffic plan and application prep for Mass DOT?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay.
When would we be looking for this to be completed?
Yeah, so I think we would want them to go ahead and do it this year, like as much as possible. Like, yeah, so do the plans this year. There's no reason not to, with the time left in the year.
Okay.
Yep. And then we would figure out the rest. Okay. So a lot of if thens, maybes on that one. And so so essentially that's 22,000, right? So now I'm going to share screens again so you can see what I'm going to be talking about next, which is the budget, right? So are you seeing the Excel? I want you to focus on column G that I have highlighted here. So our ARPA bucket, the larger ARPA bucket was 144,547, 144,547. So what you'll see here, we had 937 that was paid. That was the ADA consultant charge. And then the rest of these, May, June, July, August, those are Beals invoices for their engineering services. And our original Beals PO was for 76,000. So the remaining that's still procured is $50,501.86, right? And so what that means, and then, so what I also have here is the engineering services for the paving that we have an estimate for, and this should be 66. I'm going to change that. The quote said 6,000, but then in words it described that there's a 10% contingency of 600, or it would be 600 in this case, to cover expenses. Mark kindly pointed that out, and I had overlooked it. And then I have the estimate paving for the DPW. So with all of those expenses of the 144, that leaves a total of 40,191.50, right? And so what we have temporarily on hold is the 22, which if we can work that out, that would be for the estimate of the crosswalk, the engineering services. That leaves a remainder of 18,191 that we would be not spending this year, and we would give that back to the select board to reallocate to other projects. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Do we suffer anything with respect to the mass trails people or whatever that we're
This is not Mass Trails.
Okay,
Yeah, not Mass
so
Trails.
this doesn't hurt us on contribution and things like that.
No, this is not any of that.
Okay,
Right, because we have the paving here, you know, the cost of it we're taking out here, so that's fine. And if, yeah, so that's 18 that we'll be reallocating back, and also the 15 that they had set aside. It was a separate bucket for the crosswalk, so it's the 18 plus the 15 that equals 33,191. So
Okay.
that's in total what we would be giving back to the select board of these
Okay.
two buckets.
One more question about the crosswalk itself.
Yep.
We're gonna be meeting state standards, correct?
Of course, yeah, the
Okay.
state is very strict on what we have to.
But I mean, the question I have is, suppose, you know, we meet state standards. Everything works fine, all of the lights work and everything, but for whatever reason, somebody gets hit in the crosswalk. Southborough is not gonna be liable for that, are they?
We can ask those questions when it comes down to it, but I think it's like any crosswalk you put in, who is responsible for the liability of that? We have crosswalk stripings on Route 30. I'm not quite sure who's liable for that, Will. It's a good question.
I just wanna, you know, make sure that we're covered.
Yeah,
the bases
but
are-
because there are certain guidelines that you have to meet, like you have to have a flashing beacon if you have over 35 miles an hour. So we're meeting the requirements that are set forth for safety.
Okay,
It's a good question that we'll need to understand.
So flashing beacon is it sensing the speed if it is 35?
No, it's just it's not sensing the speed. I think there's a button you have to push
Okay.
that tells, you know, it's similar to some of the others, a button you push and then it flashes to let the drivers
Oh.
know that there's someone in the crosswalk and to slow down. And then it is the responsibility of the pedestrian to stop, look both ways before traveling on the crosswalk. You do not assume drivers are stopping just because you're in the crosswalk. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's if we do the estimate of the crosswalk. Say none of that comes through. Say Sunapee says, yeah, you know, I can't commit. We can't put it in an MOU. And we decide as a committee, because we don't want to spend money on this crosswalk if we're not going to get anything in return for parking. It doesn't make sense. I wouldn't recommend it. I don't think we would as a committee. So if we don't do the engineering services, the total money that we're going to be giving back to the select board will be reallocating will be 55,191.50. Okay, so that's just the 22 on top of the 33.
okay,
Okay, so that's the summary there of the, so we have a couple of things we got to pull together or not, and that will be the go, no go decision on October 22nd, the next select board meeting. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, worst case scenario, if the paving, like we have to do some delay in the, with the paving based on timeline and stuff, and we can't use ARPA money because we can't procure it, you know, can't secure it with a PO this year, then we need to confirm with CPA, because we do have CPA funding for phase 1, right? We have the 47,000 that was going to be used to help us with match. We just need to confirm that this project can be covered under that in the realm of a trails committee, trails project, because the CPA has certain requirements that you have to meet. So while they approved our project, we do want to make sure the components of the project that is paying for would be applicable and and be able to be used for this project. So that's the only caveat, which I will be working with CPA to CPC to figure that out, and also to get the letter member. It's no longer a MOU from CPC, but it's a letter of understanding and expectation or something. So we do need that letter to be signed. So they sent us a draft many moons ago, and I sent it back with some red lines, but I didn't hear back. So I'll follow up with them and see if we can go ahead and get that executed. But so I think we're in good shape there. Let me just see if there's anything else. Let me take a tiny look here. Okay, yeah. So then the only other thing is we still have a bucket for trail enhancements, and this was 12,005, which we purchased the shed from and some tools we purchased. So the remainder of that money, I just need to actually execute the purchase of the supplies. That's going to be we're going to do some signage, some boardwalks, by the wood so that we can build not bog bridges, but basically, if you think of where the low-lying trails that get really wet, and we can put a few floating, they're not floating, but they're small boardwalk sections so that people aren't further destroying the ground and are up and above the water. There's some places along the trails outside of all of this trail. It's nothing to do with Peninsula Trail. It's the other trails in town, in addition to the Southborough Town Forest. So I just have to execute that, and I have until the 22nd to do so. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So that's that fun part. Any other questions on that? Okay. So next up is bench selection. So that's also tied into I think we had a bench associated with the trail enhancements here. And so again, we have had discussions and we have quotes, so we just need to go through, execute, and then choose our locations for that. So that's about what we're going to talk about for benches. Next up is the guided hike. The yoga on the trail. So that was a very successful program. Thanks to Emma Bartolini for doing an amazing job hosting 6. One may have gotten canceled, so it would have been 5, but initially it was 6 yoga on the trail series this year. And remember, we initially did 2 in July, 2 in August, and then 2 in September. And one of those got canceled. I can't remember which one. So they were very well attended. For example, July 14th, 13 people attended. July 28th, 11 people. In August, there were 15 people. So that one of the August ones got canceled. And then in September, 10 people and 11 people. So those are good session sizes for that. And it was a well-run program. Since we had done it last year, it was very simple to administer. Emma is really amazing about organizing and being very self-sufficient. So really, it required some registration up front efforts and some sending of reminders and stuff. But sometimes when I was out of town, she would send the reminders. So that worked out really well. And so she has asked if we would like to host another session. And that was funded mostly through the Choate Fund grant, which was finishing up one of our projects from before. And also one session was funded through the Trails Committee budget. Okay, so she's asking, and they're $75 a session. She's asking if we would be interested in doing one more in October, and that would be on Saturday, October 26th. So I'm putting that in front of the committee. Would you be interested in having us fund another Yoga on the Trail series a session for October 26th on Saturday?
What would happen if weather was not permitting?
It would be canceled and nothing would happen. We
Okay,
just wouldn't pay for it. Yeah. I'm in
sounds
favor.
good.
So can we take a vote? So the motion is to have Trails Committee spend $75 on Emma Bartolini Shine and Shadow Yoga to host another Yoga on the Trail session October 26th, Saturday. All in favor? Or do I have a second?
I second Will Warren.
Great. And so let's do a roll call. Will Warren,
Aye.
Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
Kat McKee, yes. Motion passes. Thank you. I'll let her know. October 26th. So I just got to get that session set up on Eventbrite. That's tricky. Okay. Great. So then next is Heritage Day. So Heritage Day is Monday, Columbus or Indigenous Peoples Day. And so I wanted to, obviously it's late in the game and I'm not going to be able to pull together any information. I already told Travis it's unlikely that we'll be attending. Any opposition from the committee and not attending this year or having a booth?
Okay,
Okay. And then what we'll do is hopefully next year we'll get back into our swing of things and we'll have lots to celebrate with the project and we can really promote things and, you know, go from there.
okay.
That's Heritage Day. Now, you're going to be at Heritage Day anyway, Will, right, for the Rotary Club?
I am, yes.
Now, you guys pick a fundraiser topic, is that right? Do you?
Yeah, we're gonna be fundraising for the Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, RILA. We sponsor 4 kids to go to RILA to this intensive leadership seminar
Nice.
each year, and it costs like $350 a pop for each kid.
Okay.
So we're gonna be, that's gonna be one of the charities. The other charity that we're gonna be collecting for, not on the Heritage Day, but the pumpkin stroll will be for the Southborough Food Bank.
Oh, nice. Very good. Okay. So next up quickly is the Trails Conference. The biannual Trails Conference is happening this year on October. So it's Saturday, October 26th. There are some good sessions out there. I can send you the agenda. Now they do a kickoff, so they have like a week long of events, and there is some interesting stuff on Friday the 25th. Unfortunately, I may only be able to go to something in the afternoon. There was something in the morning, which was first steps in natural surface trail development, which would be quite relevant to our natural surface trail developing that we're doing in Penance and phase 2. So I don't know if anyone is interested in going. I can also extend the invite to Tom Coolier. But it would be interesting to get, if we can't attend, it would be interesting to get the slides at least and just see what they're putting out there. But is anyone interested in going? We can drive together if you want, carpool on Saturday, the 26th. I am definitely interested and it would come out of our budget, our annual budget.
Yeah, I'm interested in going.
Okay.
The the one thing I'd say is anybody who goes, you're going to have to take some heavy humiliation from all the people who show up in riding gear, having ridden their bikes 26 miles to get to the location.
Are there people, what do you mean?
Don't you remember the one we went to? Every other person was, they had their bike and they had all their riding gear and they had ridden all the way from Boston to this meeting in Hopkinton. So it was really quite.
Oh, was that the Metro West Trails Summit though?
Yeah,
That was, okay, yeah, that makes sense, yeah. So it's $50 a person, so, so Will is interested, Kat is interested. Sati, are you interested?
26th is difficult.
The 26th, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Saturday.
This is Mass Trails?
Yeah. It's a Mass Trails Conference, DCR Mass Trails Conference.
Okay.
They do it every 2 years.
We put that on the big agenda.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's get registered, Will. I will send you the link and then I just need you you'll need to process it on your credit card and then the process is I'll send an email. It'll basically you need to send the registration confirmation receipt and your credit card with all information redacted except for the charge. Like don't share your world.
Right.
But you'll need to share the credit card statement with that charge showing up on it. Or
So this is the Mass Trails Summit, huh?
Yeah, or if it's not the statement, because it takes 30 days for that to cycle out, you can also do the export of your expenses and just highlight that one. But you have to make sure your name and your address and the numbers are showing up as identifying it as you, not the numbers, but the template, the form you print out has all that data.
All right, and this is going to be reimbursed by the town, I guess, or out of our
Our
budget?
Trails Committee
Okay.
annual budget, yep.
All right, awesome.
Yep.
Is there, for $50, are we getting any food or anything?
Yeah, you're probably getting lunch.
Cool.
Yep. You and I went, didn't you and I go? You and I and Tom, did you go, Sati?
Yeah, I went. Yeah.
Did you go? Yeah.
Yeah, we went to the
Us-
Wolf's Lair, or wherever.
Yeah.
wherever that.
Yeah. Yeah, so this year it is it in Worcester?
Actually, I saw YouTube video about that place, and it was, apparently there's a lot of rust and decay in the water park portion of the place.
Okay, it's in Worcester at DCU Center this year,
Oh, okay.
Okay, so 10/26.
10/26, yeah, and early
Okay.
morning, so fun day. It'll be a long day, but they're usually really good. There's some good sessions that are very relevant to our world. Okay, so next up is Mass Trails. The Metro West Trails Summit is on Thursday, October 17th. It's a Thursday. It's in the morning. I will circulate the email. I cannot attend. I will not be here. So if someone wants to attend, there is a registration link. It's free. And it's a great networking event. You get to go and listen to all the Metro West Trails projects that are going on. I will make sure I send to David Loudson.
When is that?
What?
When is that?
The October 17th
And what's the title of that?
Metro West Trails Summit.
Oh,
That's the one you and I went to with the bikers.
right.
That was in Holliston or somewhere, Hopkinton, I don't know where.
Why Thursday?
They always do it during the week because most
Okay.
of them are professionals in the industry and, you know, they
All
have.
right, so you're gonna send us a link or whatever.
Yeah, I'll
on
send you a
that,
link.
right?
So if you can go, that'd be great. If you can't, I
Yeah.
understand. But it is good. So I'll send David Lautzenhauser from MAPC. They're the ones that organize it, an update on our project so that they will, you know, just share that update with folks because last year it wasn't quite an update. So I just want people to know what we're doing over here.
Right.
Next up is volunteer recruitment. We still have not received any interest and not done a huge promotion, so we'll continue to try to focus on that, but you know, and get a full committee in the coming months, but not yet. That has not happened yet. Closing out of any projects, so we are close to closing out our Choate Fund grant. I think the only last thing, I was just looking at what we have here, is I think we have a small interpretive sign and a bench. So those are the two pieces that we want to finish up to, and this is the interpretive sign is going to be somewhere else, not Peninsula Trail. And that was the one that our friend Isabella was working on before she gave her resignation to the committee. So we have a draft, and we were going to do some highlighting of trees and stuff, so we can try to pick that up, but it's got to go in the order of operations of we're trying to get a lot other stuff done, so we'll see how that goes. The DCR next up is DCR MOA work plan. So this is something that Tom's been working on. He's not here today, so we hope to get an update from him next. Any other business before the committee related to trail maintenance abutters? I do have one thing on trail abutters. We did get a notice on the near Lynbrook and the Beals Preserve, that's that trail along the open water, the aqueduct there. We need to replace a sign that says trail this way, so folks are not walking on the wrong side of the trail. Last time we printed signs, I had 2 of them printed, so in anticipation that one would go missing, and it has. So I'll just need to go out there and put a new sign up so that they know to walk across the bridge. This is where, you know, the Beals has the new parking area for the Beals Preserve, and they have a little garden there, a native garden. So now people are directed that way. Sometimes people take the wrong path and they're on the wrong side of the trail. So we put the sign up. It's a little yard sign that says trail this way to help people remember. So I'll get that going in a couple weeks because I can't do it until then. And then next meeting. So we
I have one other thing
Please.
besides that.
Thank you.
In great envy, I was wondering about the the crosswater bridge or walking bridge that has been put in Marlborough.
Oh, the
Yeah.
floating bridge? Yeah, I walked on that the other day. It was
What did you think of it?
it's fascinating. I love it.
Well, I was just wondering, is there any possibility that we could put one along 85?
Or even along Route 30 Causeway, right? If they
Along
allow
through 30
something
Causeway, right? I mean, I understand that the one in Marlborough costs like
$2
$1
million.
zillion, but literally.
Yeah, but it's like a half mile long. We wouldn't need it that long.
No, right, exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
you know,
it's-
we'd only be like 100 yards or something.
Yeah, I think the reason they could do that too is their water, that reservoir or that waterway is not a backup drinking water supply. So that's our big catch, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, I don't think, and it's worth an ask. Like, I don't know if having a floating boardwalk would, but if you bring people, you bring trash, you bring people, you bring dogs by accident, you know, those types of things happen.
Well, I'm sure the people who, you know, who fish don't ever bring any trash, right?
Williams Pond, that's what they call, I think.
Yeah,
That's-
Williams Pond, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's definitely
I mean,
worth
it's
it. Worth an
when I
inquiry.
first saw it, I couldn't believe it, how
Yeah.
long it was.
It's really interesting, and it's only attached by, it doesn't have pylons, you know, going into the ground. It's attached because I put my hand underneath to feel it. It doesn't go down, so it's just attached by chains, so it's very little impact, the connection to the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty amazed.
Mhm.
I hadn't thought that there was anything, you know, like that.
Yeah.
But the, you know, the price tag, they paid like over $1 million for that, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was closer to 2,
Yeah,
but it was
probably.
cheaper than, I don't know, cheaper than another
Than a
alternative
normal
they were
bridge or
looking at.
whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be cheaper than putting a prefab bridge, for example. I don't even know if you could do that. But okay. So for next meeting, how would the 23rd feel if I'm meeting with the select board on the 22nd? We have, you know, images and signage going on the 21st, the select board, and then the decisions will come out of that on the 22nd. And how is the 23rd for folks to reconvene and see where we're at?
And that would be what day of the week?
That's a Wednesday. 7:30.
I think that would be fine because I think that that's gonna be the fourth Wednesday in the month or whatever.
It is, yes, correct.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay, how does that work for you, Sati?
It's fine.
Okay, great. Okay, so there was something I needed. Oh yeah, so I need to write down something. It's just that I need to do registration for yoga and 26. Okay. And then, okay, so let's target that. Let's hope Tom can join us. We'll have a lot to do and decide and figure out at that point. We'll have more information on what we're doing and what we're not doing. Okay, so if there's nothing else, does someone want to make a motion to adjourn at 8:44?
I move that we adjourn at 8:44.
Great. Do we have a
Second.
second? Great. Okay, all in favor, Will Warren,
Aye.
Satyana Sharma?
Yes.
Kat McKee, yes, great. You guys, thank you so much for everything tonight. Have a
So
good
we agreed on the 23rd, right?
23rd, October 23rd, Wednesday at 7:30. And good
Okay.
night, Sam.
Wait. October 23rd is a Wednesday, right?
Yes.
Fourth Wednesday.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay, good night, all.
Okay,
Thanks.
good night.